Through your generosity, the annual Catholic Appeal continues to serve our community.
I'm Judy Williams. At New Direction, we offer peer counseling, educational support, free pregnancy tests, limited ultrasound, as well as baby clothes, diapers, formula, and more, all made possible by the annual Catholic Appeal.
The annual Catholic Appeal, assisting our neighbors here in Western Massachusetts. Visit diospringfield.org and make your donation today. Thank you for your support.
Coming up on this New Year's edition of Reel to Reel, we revisit our Catholic communications pilgrimage to Mexico, including the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. All coming your way next on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. As we close out 2016, we invite you to spend the next half hour with us as we again visit Mexico, and especially the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. This past October, Father Gary Dailey, director of the Newman Center at UMass, led a Catholic communications-sponsored group of pilgrims to Mexico. Pilgrims saw the basilica and the miraculous image of Mary on the tilma, pyramids, and ancient Mayan ruins, all while experiencing the beauty of the land and its faith-filled people. In this first segment, the pilgrims learned of the ancient history of our neighbor to the south.
Hello, I'm Father Gary Dailey, and I want to welcome you all to Mexico. Bienvenido de Mexico, on our pilgrimage here to Mexico and to particularly the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The Mexican culture and history is rich and long, with some human artifacts dating back 10,000 plus years. Mexico is well noted for the Aztecs and the Mayans. The Aztecs were noted for practicing human sacrifice and worshiping false gods. The Mayans also worshiped their gods and built many of their temples and palaces in a stepped pyramid shape, decorating them with elaborate reliefs and inscriptions. Mexico is 82% Catholic, and many say they are 100% Guadalupe, meaning that even for those who are not Catholic, the Virgin of Guadalupe plays a special part in their life as Mexicans. The majority of Mexicans are classified as mestizos, and it's precisely in those features that Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared, a mestiza woman, a blend of both the Indian and Spanish characteristics. On the first day, we arrived after a long trip from New York here to Mexico City, and upon our arrival, we were greeted with beautiful weather in the mid-70s and traveled directly to our hotel where we relaxed a bit. Then finally, after our relaxation, we went around the corner to this beautiful church, the Church of the Holy Infant of Jesus. There we celebrated Mass in a beautiful chapel in the basement of the church, which was also a crypt. During the time of political and social change in the world, we noticed that in areas of the world, like Mexico, we saw that movie on the way down to the airport today, showing how the political change here in Mexico in the early 20s and the Cristeros are trying to bring the Catholic faith back when they were being persecuted and priests dying and being hung and shot, as we saw, and many martyrs happened during that time. But also places around the world, in Poland, for instance, where there's communist rule, or in Vietnam. All these places in the world that have this oppression, the faith was nourished. The faith was blossoming, and people in many ways underground or in private or in seclusion would gather for Mass and pray in these parts of the world. And so we were there for the celebration of the Eucharist for St. Teresa of Avila. And finally, after Mass, we returned to our hotel for a nice welcome dinner. And that was the conclusion of our first day here in Mexico. Day 2, Mexico, we directly left the hotel and went to the place where Saint Juan Diego was baptized. We saw the ancient city there, some ruins date back to pre-15th century, and we visited the church where Juan Diego was baptized and the church in which he attended, but also the place where he went to school as a little boy. Juan Diego was baptized later in life, in his 40s, and it's also the place where he met Bishop Zumarraga after his visit with Our Lady, and that apparition. Our Lady of Guadalupe asked him to go to the bishop, and this is exactly, this building that you see here is exactly where the bishop greeted him and where he dropped the Castilian roses before the bishop, and the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared on his tilma. And so finally, after that visit there, we went directly to the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. It was a very short visit there. We saw a few things, but we celebrated Mass in a small chapel on the second floor of the Basilica while Mass was going on behind us. And it's really a gospel about persistence in prayer, but the word persistent is very important. And I think it's really fascinating that we have this gospel today because we learn of Juan Diego, who was persistent because Our Lady made him go back and go back and go back to Bishop Zumarraga to convince him that this is exactly what she wanted here at Tepeyac, to build this church in her honor under the title of Our Lady of Guadalupe. After a 30-minute ride from the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, we arrived at the place of the pyramids, some of the ancient ruins that dated 100 years before Christ. And upon our arrival there, we were greeted by some family members who create beautiful stonework and explain to us about plants.
Pulque is the name. It's a very popular drink, very soft drink, for only 4 or 5% of alcohol. It's nothing for Mexican people.
But then we had a very lovely lunch together and some traditional music that was being played for us. We enjoyed our time together there, had a little bit of margaritas and some other local drinks so that people could taste, and we enjoyed our camaraderie and our preparing for our walk to the pyramids. Behind me you can see one of the pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun. It's kind of interesting that we come to Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is such a beautiful Catholic site, and we come to an area like this which is really pagan, where the early people here of Mexico, the Aztecs and the Mayans, would be very much in tune with sun god and sun moon and all of the various gods that they worshipped at that time. But the history here is very rich. The years dating before Christ, in which many of these ruins that we see now are built in these pyramids. So it's very lovely here. The tourists are enjoying their stay here and among the pyramids, and so we hope that this will be a lasting impression for them for a very long time. Well, I hope you enjoyed our little journey through Mexico today and look forward to our next segment, and hope you will join us to see more of Mexico.
What an amazing opportunity to experience firsthand. And still to come on Reel to Reel, Father Gary and the pilgrims travel to Puebla, learn of the arrival of Christianity into Mexico, and spend time at one of the most important Catholic pilgrimage sites in the world. All still to come on this New Year's edition of Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passion's Brother Terrence Galen, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy days and join us Sunday morning at 10. We welcome Father William Wallace from St. Peter's St. Catherine's Parish in Westfield and members of the Catholic Grandparents Association as together we celebrate the Feast of Mary, the Mother of God. Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10, right here on WWLP TV 22.
Travel next summer with Bishop Mitchell Rosansky and Catholic Communications to Fatima, Portugal to mark the centennial of the Blessed Mother's apparitions. Departing July 17th, this 10-day pilgrimage will visit 3 major European Catholic heritage sites, beginning at Fatima, where you will walk in the footsteps of the 3 young children to whom Mary appeared a century ago. Witness firsthand the great faith of the Portuguese people and the beauty of the land. See how Mary's message still inspires. From there, we'll head to Santiago de Compostela, Spain, where the remains of St. James are buried. Mass will be celebrated in the magnificent cathedral, taking in the sights and sounds of beautiful northern Spain. Our journey will conclude in Lourdes, France, Europe's other great Marian shrine, where the faith has been celebrated for over 150 years. Each day, Bishop Rosansky, assisted by Father Gary Dailey, will offer Mass. For more information on this trip, log on to iobserve.org or call 413-452-0670 for a brochure. Renew your faith in 2017. Join Bishop Rosansky and Father Dailey for this great spiritual opportunity. Don't miss out.
Through your generosity, the annual Catholic Appeal continues to serve our community.
I am Andres Lopez. Catholic Latino Ministry offers pastoral services to families throughout Western Mass. We are there for people in need of God's mercy and love, all made possible through the annual Catholic Appeal.
The annual Catholic Appeal, assisting our neighbors here in Western Massachusetts. Visit diospringfield.org and make your donation today. Thank you for your support.
We have a special Christmas treat for you on our website, diospringfield.org. A gallery of photos featuring many of our churches decorated for the Christmas season. You can find that at diospringfield.org. Now we continue our series from Mexico, highlighting our Catholic Communications October pilgrimage to the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The pilgrims, led by spiritual director Father Gary Dailey, traveled on to Puebla and then back to Mexico City, along the way experiencing the beautiful land, its culture, history, and faith of its people.
Father Gary Dailey, and we're on day 3 of our pilgrimage in Mexico. One of the things that we're learning as we move through Mexico are various aspects of this country, but one of the things is geography and landscape. And as we left Mexico City today, we are traveling over the mountain, which we're presently on at 10,000 feet above sea level. Mexico City, where we're staying, is 7,000 feet above sea level. And now we're in beautiful landscape here, just outside of Mexico City on our way to Puebla. And behind me you can see the beautiful mountain of Itza, which is snow-capped right now, which is 17,000 feet above sea level. And to the side of Itza, you see the active volcano, Popo. And we're just taking in the beautiful landscape of this area now as we move over the mountain into the beautiful city of Puebla. And when we arrived in Puebla, we got off the bus and we walked through parts of the city, and we ended up at a beautiful Dominican church, the Church of St. Dominic, where we celebrated Mass. The church itself is beautiful, but when we rounded the corner into the chapel, which is the Holy Rosary Chapel, what a magnificent sight we saw. Just very Baroque, very ornate, very gold, and we celebrated Mass there in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The Chalice of Salvation, giving thanks that you have held us worthy to be in your presence. These are the perfect readings with which to understand Our Lady of Guadalupe. Because when she appeared to Juan Diego 485 years ago, when she imprinted her image in his tilma, she did so as a pregnant Aztec princess, a symbol that she was about to give birth to her son here in our continent, here in our hemisphere. Christianity had arrived in Mexico just a short 10 years before, but there were relatively few converts because most of the indigenous people were turned off by the conquistadors rather than turned on by the Franciscan missionaries to the Lord both groups proclaimed to believe in. But after her appearance and seeing the image of this mestiza woman, which was harmoniously beautiful mix between Indian and Spanish features, showing the compatibility of the gospel being announced by the Spanish Franciscans and the Indian nature. There started to be converts by the millions. 10 million came to the faith in the next decade. Following Mass, we left the church and we made our way through the town center. And there we saw the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. Following the Mass that was taking place in there, the pilgrims got to go into the cathedral through the Holy Door and to witness the magnificence of the beautiful cathedral in Puebla. We made our way to the Franciscan church, a very short distance, but the Franciscan Church of Saint Sebastian. Saint Sebastian was a Franciscan friar who did tremendous work in the city of Puebla and lived till he was 98 years old, and his body is uncorrupt, and we were able to pray before his body, Blessed Sebastian. Our next stop was to a town called Tlaxcala. It's a place where St. Michael the Archangel visited in the year 1631 to a young man 17 years old called Diego Lazaro. Diego Lazaro was visited by St. Michael the Archangel because there was a plague in that town of smallpox. And St. Michael the Archangel instructed Diego to go to this certain rock in which water would flow and to heal the people from that town. Well, after a number of visits from St. Michael the Archangel, finally that rock produced water, and the smallpox that was plaguing that area was eliminated. And so a church was erected there to St. Michael the Archangel, and the pilgrims were able to walk down the numerous stairs and hills to get to this church and to visit and to see the well that's there and to lift some water for them to take home. In addition to that, in our journey towards that church, we really got to see some of the small villages from the greater Puebla area, which really spoke to us of some extreme poverty. But one of the things that everyone commented on, particularly the pilgrims, was that in the poverty of these people, there was just a tremendous joy. That the people and the young people were just enjoying themselves and whatever they could, and going through the marketplace. We were able to walk through and to visit some of the folks that were there selling their goods, and to be able to see those people just enjoying life there in that small town of Tlaxcala and just enjoying the presence of Americans coming to their town just brought a great joy to all the pilgrims. From there, we left and made our way back on top of the mountain, 10,000 square feet, where many of us felt the pressure in the bus with our ears popping, and coming back down into Mexico City for the night to enjoy a night of dinner with each other and then rest for our journey the next day. Hello, I'm Father Gary Dailey. Buenos dias from Mexico City on our day 3 of our pilgrimage. This morning we left the hotel and we took a bus tour of Mexico City, seeing some of the beautiful monuments and beautiful buildings, government buildings and churches and various sites around Mexico City. And then we are here now at the Cathedral of Mexico City, the Metropolitan Cathedral, and our pilgrims are able to once again go through the holy door of the cathedral to visit the inside and to see the beautiful altars, the magnificent structure here, certainly one of the largest cathedrals in the world. And so we gather here today, celebration of Mass is for the Feast of St. Luke in a small chapel on the side of the cathedral. And we prayed for all of our pilgrims, but also for all of you who are watching this in your intentions. And we pray for good health and good wishes for everyone as we continue on our pilgrimage through Mexico. We are called through this Gospel of Luke, day by day, to be witnesses to the gospel, to the good news. We're called to do exactly what was in St. Luke's Gospel today. To go out as missionaries, as ambassadors, as emissaries to the world, and to preach the good news. Two things that we see in the gospel today, that the disciples are sent in pairs. So what it means is that we don't have to go it alone. Now, who's joined with us? Well, we are always yoked together with Jesus. We never walk alone. We never go it alone. Whenever we have a difficult task to do, whenever we have a difficult message to preach, we never go it alone. Jesus stands by our side. One of our stops during this pilgrimage day was to the tomb of Father Miguel Pro, now Blessed Miguel Pro. Miguel Pro was born in 1891. In 1915, Miguel was sent to the seminary in Spain, and he remained there until 1924, and he went to Belgium, and there he was ordained a priest in 1925. He suffered from a lot of illness during that time, and his superiors sent him back to Mexico. But during that time, there was the great persecution in Mexico with the Catholics. And so he was one of the priests and one of those who were involved in the Cristeros movement, trying to regain the practice of Catholicism back here in Mexico. He was falsely accused of the bombing attempt on the former Mexican president, and so he was then a wanted man, and so he was executed. Father Miguel Pro forgave his executioners, and he prayed bravely, and he died with the words, "Viva Cristo Rey," long live Christ the King. And so we're so grateful to be able to pray at his tomb and to be in his presence, a real martyr, a real man of God who gave his life for his sheep. What a surreal experience that we're actually here at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. There is a presence here unlike anything that I have ever felt before in any other pilgrimage. And coming here to Guadalupe and praying for the intentions of so many people and witnessing the image firsthand and seeing the beauty and the faith of the people here in Mexico is really uplifting. Well, our pilgrimage has ultimately led us here to this sacred place on top of Tepeyac Hill. After catching our breath, I'm able to tell you that this is the very place in which Our Lady appeared to Juan Diego. Behind me is the church in which she asked the bishop to build in her honor this temple dedicated to our Blessed Mother. This is also the place in which Juan Diego met our Blessed Mother when she gave him the Castilian roses to prove to Bishop Zumarraga that this is an authentic apparition and that her request to build this temple in her honor was authentic. And so this place is indeed a holy place. It is indeed the place which we have ultimately come to see, and we give glory to God for what has happened here at Guadalupe. It's very interesting to note, too, the influence of Pope St. John Paul II here. There's a massive monument to him here at Guadalupe because this was a very special place for him. in the 20th century, up until his time when he came here in 1978 to visit the people of Mexico, the church was in turmoil. Priests were not allowed to wear their religious garb. Pope John Paul II was coming to Mexico not as a diplomat, because Mexico had no diplomatic relations with the Vatican. He was coming here as a tourist, and he had to fill out all documents and visas as a tourist to this country. And in fact, he wasn't supposed to be wearing any papal garbs, any distinct vesture that would show him as a priest or a bishop. And yet, Pope John Paul II came off that plane in his papal garb. In fact, he was fined by the government. And as a result of his presence here in Mexico, the church began to flourish. And the government decided that they could not defeat the Catholic Church any longer. And priests were then allowed to wear their religious garb, able to wear their collar, and to celebrate publicly services around this country. And we are grateful to Almighty God for the opportunity to be in this holy place, in this holy ground, and to be able to experience the beauty of this place of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
What an amazing experience, and one that the pilgrims, I'm sure, will treasure for years to come. By the way, if you'd like to travel with Father Gary Dailey and Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky to Portugal, Spain, and France next July, there still are seats available. For more information, check out a link we have at iobserve.org, or we can send you information in the mail. Just call 413-732-3175. That's 413-732-3175. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. As always, to keep up with all of the latest news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, check out our news and information website, iobserve.org. Also, you can friend us on Facebook at Catholic Communications. I will see you right back here next week at the same time on Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. We leave you now with a video postcard from Mexico, edited by videographer Sean Manning, who did a spectacular job on this whole series. Enjoy and have a happy new year.